Okay. In this week's podcast, we're going to talk about a few gym myths. So things that people think are true and aren't necessarily, maybe there's a little validity. Okay, let's jump into it. Number one, muscle confusion. I love that one. There's a lot of things out there like this where, so first of all, the idea behind muscle confusion is when you first start working out, you have the most gains and it tends to plateau. But if you change the workout, if you change the way you work your chest, maybe you'll reproduce those early gains. That's the theory behind it. A lot of people find that to not be true. They just do the same workout, even the same chest movement, and they get just as much gains as the guy changing it up all the time. And so it's just funny because the rationale behind it sounds legit, right? I'm going to change up the exercise so I get my early gains. That's just a theory. And a lot of guys, they find this to be somewhat true. Maybe the reason it seems to be true is if those guys are be consistent in hitting the gym, you're going to get improvement, guaranteed. So muscle confusion to a lot of people is not really a thing anymore. The theory behind it sounds phenomenal, but there's a lot of other theories just like that, that the theory behind it sounds great and they have an idea, they name it something, sounds good. And so whoever just believes it until someone comes along and debunks it. I actually got my best bench ever with zero muscle confusion. I was doing one exercise for chest and one alone, bench press itself, and I got my biggest bench that way. So to be fair, muscle confusion is typically applied to people who are trying to bodybuild, not strength train, to be fair. Okay, next one. I have to work really hard to get results. The amount of people that I would love to erase it out of their heads. A lot of people, I even made a TikTok on this, a lot of people that go really far with something, they never once pushed themselves. There are stories of guys that weigh 350, 400 pounds, and they just decided, I'm going to walk around this lake near my house every day. And then they walked around it again, the next day walked around it again. One day, just because their body was used to it and started to feel easier, they found themselves jogging a little. Then one day later, they found themselves running a little bit. Then one day later, they found themselves running the whole thing. And all of a sudden, the guy he's lost 200 pounds or so. So you definitely don't have to work hard to get results. Consistency will beat hard work 10 out of 10 times. Consistency is so much better. And I'm proving with my method, for all of you out there who are doing my method specifically, we're proving that you don't need to work hard to get results. Not only that, but sometimes a lot of us are actually overworking it. When you ease up a little bit, you actually get better results. There's a famous personal trainer, Charles Poliquin. Good book of his is called The Poliquin Principles. That's for like bodybuilding and strength training, though, with the old school split routine methods. He talked about that in his book. And then a lot of people are actually overworking their shoulders and people can't get their shoulders to grow. So they add more and they add more and they add more. But your shoulders are used when you push forward. Your front delts are used. Your shoulders are also used when you slash on your chest day. Your shoulders are also used when you row back. Your rear delts are being used on your back day. And then people have a shoulder day on top of that. And so his protocol was typically to reduce people's workload on their shoulders. So he would take away some of the effort and then all of a sudden their shoulders will grow because they're not overworking them. So for most people, if you go to the gym and you have this mindset that you have to work really hard, they do. And they're sore for a week and they don't go back to the gym. And then they finally get back in there and they work really hard again. And then they are gone for a week because they're too sore to work out again. And then when they're going to go back again, they know what's coming and they don't really want to do that. You don't have to work nearly that hard, even doing a split routine. Don't overdo it. Just do a workout, keep it light-ish, increase as you go, but you don't have to work too hard and you will absolutely get results if you're consistent. Consistency beats hard work every single time. Just be consistent. Don't have to work hard. Next one, I have to take supplements. That is the number one question I get from pretty much everybody that hires me. What supplements should I take? And my honest answer is usually none. The workout itself and your diet are like 90% or above, like 95% of your results. It's what you eat and consistency with your workout, sticking to your workout plan and making adjustments as you go if you need to. That is most all of it, nearly all of it. Supplements just add a little bit on top, add a little bit extra, but people put this huge amount of focus on expensive supplements that to me don't do a whole lot. If you're low on something, if you're low on iron, take some iron. If you're low on B12, take some B12. But most people are not low on iron and not low in B12, and taking it does nothing, does absolutely nothing. So maybe some vitamin D. I've talked about supplements in a different podcast. Maybe a couple things if you're low on them. But if you're not, you don't need it. You don't need it. You need to be consistent at the gym and you need to eat right. That's it. And you will go so much further than anyone shoving handfuls of pills into their mouths. You'll go so much further. Unless it's an anabolic steroid, it's not going to do a whole lot for you. Maybe a little bit. Or if you're low on it, then it will do something for you. Other than that, don't need it. Leads into the next one. I need a lot of expensive equipment to lift. The amount of people that are like next to me at the gym with their expensive squat shoes, their squat belts, all their equipment they use, and they are squatting less weight than me, and I'm squatting deeper than them with better form. And I'm more likely to kick my shoes off than put on some squat shoes. I'm more likely to go barefoot, but the shoes I have are like nearly barefoot. They're really thin and they have a wide toe box so your toes spread out. So they're as natural as your foot can get to just taking them off with this pair of shoes. You don't need the fancy equipment. People start some kind of program. There was a guy that started in my martial arts class way back in the day in this mixed martial arts school I was going to. I've been going for years. I was driving one day. I see some guy pull up next to me at a stoplight. He was in a convertible, red convertible. He had a pair of fighting, like fingerless, like UFC type gloves hanging on his rearview mirror. And I'm like, this guy. And then we both go and I see him pull up to the same place I'm pulling up to. I'm like, oh, he goes here. I've never seen this guy. He was new. He bought a new rash guard, super nice, expensive pants, fancy gloves, already hanging them on his car like he's some kind of badass. He probably came to class for 3 days and quit. And he probably paid for 6 months of a membership and he quit. People tend to focus so much on like buying all this stuff. You don't need all the fancy equipment. You don't need all the expensive gear. You need to show up every day. And on top of that, I'm not big on gear anyways. When you don't use the squat belts, they can be helpful for some people. But when your body gets used to having to brace itself, and if you know how to push your stomach out to almost create an internal weight belt for yourself, that's better. Training your body and your body being able to handle this stuff on its own is better. It's almost using equipment at the gym when you are laying down, or say you're up against a machine and you're doing rows. I do rows standing with my feet spread apart and I just hinge way forward and I pull the weight off the ground that way to where my back is basically flat and my chest are flat to the ground and I'm in a kind of a squatted position and I pull the weight that way. That way, my entire core, my legs, everything has to engage and stabilize as I work my back. When you do that, then when you're going for a tackle, all those muscles that are related to each other as you go over tackle, you're much more likely to do something that's full body and be successful versus someone who always has a pad right here, like a bench right here, and they row and their body is being pushed onto this bench. So their core doesn't have to stabilize, their legs don't have to stabilize and support them. None of the stuff that's connected works. Your back works. But then when you go for a tackle, if your chest is strong and your back is strong, but all the core muscles are weak, guess who's going to lose in that tackle? You're going to get clobbered in that. So I am not an equipment guy. I'm not a machine guy. I'm use your own body to brace itself and only go up in weight as your entire body can handle it, even though it's a back exercise. The only place where I don't do that is bench press. I don't know how I'm supposed to do it without that. That'd be a difficult one to accomplish. I can accomplish it. I'm not going to do that. Anyways, everything else, I don't tend to lead up on things. I tend to use my own body when I'm doing my shoulders, curls, triceps, everything. So I do it unequipped. I think it's far superior. Last myth here. I can burn fat in specific areas, or I'm going to do sit-ups to burn fat in my stomach. The way fat deposits is a biological thing. It's what am I looking for? It's like a genetics thing. Okay. Some people tend to gain fat in the stomach. Typically, guys tend to gain fat in their stomach, and girls tend to gain it in their hips and their butt, right? We all gain it all over, but that's just generally speaking. Some people, they tend to gain it internally. So it goes all over their organs. And they're like what's called a skinny fat person. They look skinny on the outside, but their fat deposits are internal. So that they don't really you don't see their body fat as well as somebody else's body fat. But they could have just as much as somebody else who appears to be a little heavier than them, have a little more body fat than them. But if you tend to gain it in your stomach and then it goes other places once you have too much there and I start going other places. When you burn it, it'll burn in that fashion too. So if it mostly goes in your stomach, it'll burn off your stomach, no matter what you're doing. So just doing something that burns more calories is more effective than doing sit-ups. So than just trying to target the area. So if you don't like the fat on the back of your arm, do something that burns more calories. Go for long walks, do a full body program, but you're better off doing squats than you are doing sit-ups to burn the fat off your stomach, because squats burn more calories than sit-ups. So that will burn the fat that's being stored around your waistline better than doing crunches. Though your abdominal muscles are smaller muscles, they will not burn as many calories. You should work your whole body. I'm just saying that working bigger muscles burns more calories, and that will more calories being burned means fat's more likely to go away. So you can't really burn fat in specific areas. It just comes off your body. For some people, it starts to come off of their stomach first, then maybe the butt gets smaller, then maybe the flabs of the back of the arm finally start to reduce. It just depends on where it tends to accumulate in you. It'll reduce in that same order that it accumulated on you. And that's just your genetic. It's just how you're built. So we're all built a little bit differently. Some people are lucky enough that maybe the fat deposits in all the right areas and they just lucked out, and the rest of it, for me, it goes straight to my stomach. My stomach and like my jaw, it's disgusting. I don't like it. So I try to keep myself pretty lean. So those are just a couple of gym myths. If you guys have any more, or you're wondering if something's true or not, let me know. Drop me a line. I love hearing from you guys. Really appreciate you listening to this. Do my program, have fun with it. Don't overwork. Or if you're doing a different program, also don't overwork ever. Resist the temptation to work too hard. All right. Fun. Till next time.